Hey, welcome to Nadine, who is going to
Oh,
help me read an exciting law review article. So, hi Nadine, how are you today?
hi, Judy. I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I was telling you, I just got home late last night, just driving from Pennsylvania, so it's pretty exhausting. So, but it's
Yeah.
good to be home and no car trouble. So
Yeah. Well,
that's
glad
good.
you made it back safely.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So, how are you feeling about this case and Wendy, her chances of arrest?
Well, I still think she will be arrested. I have no doubt about that. It may not happen as quickly as we'd all like to see it,
Hmm.
because I do keep refreshing every day to see if I'm going to see that breaking news. Um, but I do believe it will happen. I mean, it has to happen, right? Every trial they put on evidence um, that is exclusively showing Wendy's involvement. So I do think they will, but as we've said before, um, the case against her will be different than the case against Charlie and Donna because, people like Jackie St. Germain, our friend, believes that they have a smoking gun or something against Wendy that they've kept close to the
They
vest.
could.
They
Yeah,
could,
we
but
don't
I'm not
know.
so sure. I
Yeah.
think what we've seen is probably, maybe they do have more emails and things like that that they've kind of put out incrementally. Charlie's trial, we learned some new things about Wendy. At Donna's, we learned quite a bit more. I think
Mhm.
Georgia really confronted her about some of her own statements about Dan and emails and things like that. So I do think, yeah, they may have more of that. Do they have her recorded saying things? And, I don't know because I think they would have used that already
Hmm.
instead of keeping it for her trial.
Although, although I still feel like that might not have been relevant to the previous trials. So there's
Hmm.
definitely more. I mean, remember what Patty's Playhouse said? She said she saw Jack Campbell at some sort of lunch last year,
Hmm.
and Jack Campbell simply told her there's more. Or was was it Patty's Playhouse or Jared Ross who said that? One of those
Mm.
people who's in passing a year or so.
Well, that's
Yeah,
that's promising. Maybe they do. Maybe they do. But
I think
even if
so.
they do, I think it will
Hmm.
still be a different type of case that they
Yes.
have to prepare against her.
Hmm.
And I'm not worried about the Castigar thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a defense talking point. I agree with Carl Steinbeck on that. They keep pushing that certain people because um, they want to make it a bigger issue than it is. They didn't glean anything new from Wendy's testimony or derive anything from her testimony. So I don't see
Yes.
that being an issue. What I think will be an issue and where she will be able to defend herself is there are some exculpatory type things to do with Wendy. Like when Donna says it's about the two of us, when he says, "Is it about Wendy?" And she's like, "No, no, 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 no."
Well, I think she meant she didn't want Charlie to keep talking.
Right.
And she was just talking to Charlie. So, of course, she would say the two of us because she's talking to Charlie.
It's to
But,
do with
but
us.
getting
Yeah.
back to what you mentioned with Castigart,
Hmm.
Professor Patuto has said also that she's not concerned because Wendy really didn't give any good info,
Mm-mm.
nothing new
No.
when she's on the
She has
stand.
right, she has
Yeah.
testified 4 times now at these
Hmm.
trials. Her initial interview the day of the murder, though, that can be used against her.
Yeah.
Um, but her testimonies at each of these trials, I don't think she has given anything,
Yeah.
that was not sourced somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that's an issue, and, the channel La Belle Vie,
Hmm.
she did a whole video about that.
Oh, great.
And went through like,
Uh huh.
there's nothing that Wendy has provided in any of her testimonies that would, she'd be able to say you can't use that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'd like to give a shout out to Shadrick here. So, as far as I know, this is
Ah,
really Shadrick Nobles who is watching the channel.
believe
So,
it.
yeah, believe it. We just really enjoyed watching you. at the previous trial.
Yeah.
So what does this mean? Where that crazy hunky is this lady be having on here? Okay, well, certainly Nadine is not the crazy hunky. So I think you mean loophole lawyer Vince. So he comes on
Oh.
Tuesdays. We always, it's a joke. See you next Tuesday. So, okay, but thank you for watching us. Hope you're doing great. As
Yeah.
usual, if you want to be interviewed, I'd be happy to pay you to be on. And I've asked him multiple times, and he keeps saying that he's
No.
not interested.
Well,
Yeah.
that would be fun. An interview
Hmm.
with Shadrick.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, Wendy has not been arrested. That's why we're still kind of scrambling to come up with content because that's all people really care about
That's the
on
next
this
spoke
channel.
in the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you care about other cases?
Yes,
Which
I do
one?
follow certain other cases, such as there was one that just wrapped up. She was convicted. The what was her name? Latasha Daniels. She
Oh,
shot the pastor.
yeah, the one who said something like, "What, you betrayed me,"
You
while she
broke
was
my
shooting.
heart. You broke my
Yeah.
heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was interesting. She was convicted. I don't know if you know anything about it, but she testified, which I think is interesting,
Hmm.
because she shot him 5 times, but she testified she doesn't remember the actual shooting, and
Yeah.
that her
Right.
intent was to kill herself when she
Yeah.
bought the
Right.
gun. I didn't buy it. The jury didn't buy
Yeah.
it. They
Hmm.
didn't convict her of first-degree murder, though. They
Mm.
convicted her of second degree because the prosecution felt it was premeditated, that she really bought the gun to kill him.
Hmm.
But the jury seemed to have, maybe her testifying did help her in that sense because they weren't convinced it was premeditated.
Mm.
But I
Mm.
agree with the second degree at least, because you
Yeah.
don't drive
Since
3 hours to kill him if you intended to kill yourself. She didn't even kill herself
exactly.
after she shot him. So
Yeah. Was she the one who was already married and
yes,
pregnant or something
no, she
by the
wasn't
time of
pregnant.
the trial? Or
No,
she had a
no, that
kid?
was a different one.
Oh, okay. I'm getting all
Yeah.
these cases mixed up.
Yeah, you can get
Yeah.
them mixed up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do follow other ones. I'm also looking forward to the Jared Bridegan
Hmm.
trial, which is
Hmm.
not till next year, and
Yeah.
Jose Baez is involved in that,
Oh, that's
representing Shanna
must
Gardner.
see TV. Yeah. I'm so glad you guys have that sunshine law in
Yes.
Florida. Yeah. So
Yeah,
we can see all the action. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
What about you? You following anything else?
Um, well, I've been reading about that TikTok adultery case because it happened right here. It's there's no murder, but it was a civil case. It
Mhm.
was what do you call it? Alienation of
Of
affections
affection.
case.
Hmm.
Yes. So it's right here near where I practice, and I'm sorry, my voice is already giving out. I think I
It's
talked
okay.
too
Take some
much during
water.
my trip. Yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to reach out to the plaintiff's attorney because I sort of have a connection to her. She
Oh.
practices like right near me. So hopefully she'll agree to be on. But most people
Mm.
are just so busy, and she just finished the trial. So
Okay.
it was a 1.5 million verdict
In
against
favor
the
of the plaintiff?
defendant. Yeah,
Ah.
in favor of the ex-wife.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
so that's a big deal. I think
Yeah, you
that's
don't hear about
interesting.
too many alienation of affection anymore.
Yeah, I think it, well, because most states don't have that as a
Mm,
cause of action,
mhm,
but we do here in North Carolina. Plus,
mm.
the defendant was this big TikTok star. I've never even heard of her, but
Wow.
apparently she has like over 1 million followers on
Wow.
TikTok, and she was posting constantly footage of her being with this
The husband.
plaintiff's husband, Tim, and just like mocking the plaintiff and just throwing it in her face and stuff. So she was asking for it,
Well, that
to
came
be
back to bite
sued.
her.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So, okay, well, do you want to go ahead and start reading
Sure, we can
then?
start
Because
reading.
that's what people are here for, is the Markel case as usual. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. And you guys, Law Review is like sort of like a magazine or a periodical that is published by law schools. And most law professors have to publish or perish. So their prestige is brought about by having these sort of scholarly articles published in law reviews. So Chapman University is not, sorry to say, it's not that prestigious. It's ranked 104 in law schools. And Wendi was not a tenured track professor. She was sort of like a contract clinical professor, which is definitely not as lucrative and not as prestigious as being a tenure track professor like Dan
Wasn't she a
Markel.
spousal hire, I heard? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm sure it was just because they had to give her a job to get Dan.
And she
So,
said her job was on grant money, so she never knew if it was going to be there from year to year.
yeah, it was like a year to year contract. Yeah,
Hmm.
so that was one excuse as to why she had to move from Tallahassee because
Yeah,
her job was so, you know, tenuous.
unstable. Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
although I do recall that her pay had increased to something like 105K a
Hmm.
year back then in 2014. So
And in
it didn't seem,
Tallahassee, even
yeah,
even
that's
her eighty
great money.
thousand, yeah,
Tallahassee.
in the divorce affidavit, I think she put she was making like 80,000.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, and I think even in Tallahassee, that was great.
Yeah. So,
Hmm.
okay, so if you want to go ahead and start reading so people
Sure.
don't have to be subjected to my voice. Sorry. It's kind of hard to talk again today. Oops. Oops. Okay, let me share the screen. I actually read this a while back, but I got so many complaints and stuff, so maybe
Oh,
more people will
that's why I won't
listen.
start a YouTube channel. I don't want to have to deal
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, yeah, she does have a great voice. So thank
Oh,
you for
thank
saving
you.
me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so lawfully present lawyers.
Present.
Present. Sorry. Lawfully present lawyers by Wendi Adelson. Lawfully present lawyers, Wendi Adelson. So she opens up with, when I was 9 years old, I committed an act so sacrilegious, so unspeakable, and so nefarious that I became a threat to national security and a potential terrorist. I confess my offense. I did not resist my parents who snatched me from Mexico's poverty to live illegally in the United States of America. In this essay, I outline how a college education became a reality for me despite the tremendous obstacles I encountered and my struggle for immigrant rights. And there's a footnote one. This paragraph is an excerpt from Jose Manuel Godinez Semperio's application for a place at Florida State University College of Law. Appendix to respondent's brief at 32 Florida something something Bar of Examiners regarding question as to whether undocumented immigrants are eligible for admission to the Florida bar. And there's some more citations. So she's opening with an excerpt from his application.
Yeah, which is confusing. So once again, she's virtue signaling by showing that she's helping this poor
Hmm.
undocumented immigrant who wants to get into law school or be a member of the bar.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, introduction. The quotation above is taken from an application to law school written by a dedicated and hardworking law student in my seminar on immigrant children legal representation in the fall of 2012. Valedictorian of his high school and an Eagle Scout, he was prepared for every class with sophisticated legal questions and thought provoking analysis, and I knew him for 2 years as my student before he revealed to me that he was undocumented. He graduated from Florida State University College of Law with honors and proceeded with the next logical hurdle for any law student of any immigration status, taking our state's bar exam. For Jose Manuel, he faced the additional roadblock of the need to show immigration status to apply to the bar. He enlisted the assistance of one of his law professors, the inimitable Sandy D'Alemberte, to approach the Florida bar and find out if they would waive the immigration status question and permit Jose Manuel to take the bar exam. The bar waived the immigration status requirement. So, my former law student studied for, took, and passed the bar exam. And then the real challenge began. The Florida bar was unsure about whether it could issue a license to practice law to an undocumented person, even one who graduated from an accredited American law school and passed the Florida bar exam. The Florida bar petitioned the state Supreme Court in December of 2011 for an advisory opinion to answer the following question. Are undocumented immigrants eligible for admission to the Florida bar? One potential hurdle for admission to the Florida bar includes a finding as to good moral character. Jose Manuel Godinez Semperio appeared to have the kind of spotless record that would make a finding as to his good moral character simple. Jose Manuel nevertheless worried. Was his illegal entrance to the United States at the age of 9 with his parents enough to make his character too immoral to be a lawyer in Florida? Since Jose Manuel had fulfilled every other aspect of acquisition of a bar license in Florida and was still waiting for a decision from the Florida bar and then the Florida Supreme Court on his case, why the holdup? While Jose Manuel waited for a decision from the Florida Supreme Court, life continued around him. On June 15, 2012, then Department of Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano issued a policy memo creating Deferred Action for Early Childhood Arrivals, DACA, for the category of young people illegally present in the United States, which Jose Manuel was a part of, the people who were brought to the United States as children and known only this country as home, quote unquote. In her memo, Secretary Napolitano delegated to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, USCIS, the determination as to whether individuals who qualify for DACA would also receive a work permit. As DACA beneficiaries, these individuals are quote unquote lawfully present in the United States, even if only on a temporary basis. Given their lawful presence, they became potentially eligible for federal and state benefits like driver's licenses and in-state tuition to public colleges and universities. Jose Manuel ended up being one of those DACA eligible young people who did receive authorization to work. The Florida Supreme Court issued an advisory opinion stating that he was nevertheless ineligible for admission to the bar because the Florida legislature had not passed legislation authorizing undocumented immigrants to work in the state. Less than 2 months later, the Florida legislature passed a law allowing immigrants such as Jose Manuel to be admitted to practice law. As both a participant and an observer, in the case of Jose Manuel Godinez Samperio's efforts to obtain a license to practice law in Florida, I am writing this article to clarify the issues involved in this case, to discuss the larger questions presented as they relate to in-state tuition and occupational licenses for those in liminal statuses, and to anticipate future changes in the law in light of the potential passage of comprehensive immigration reform. Part 1 addresses DACA and the unintended consequences and questions regarding its application to a large population of previously undocumented people. I then proceed in Part 2 to examine the interconnected issues of in-state tuition for colleges and universities for the DACA population and occupational licensing. Part 3 contemplates the role that comprehensive immigration reform could play in the lives of DACA recipients. In scroll. um, DACA recipients. In sum, this paper will add to the literature and conversation about DACA recipients and lawful presence, the interplay between occupational licenses and in state tuition, and the rights and remedies according to this burgeoning population of young people who are coming of age in America today. So, part one, prosecutorial discretion and deferred action for childhood arrivals. On June 17th, 2011, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Director John Morton issued a memo encouraging its agency to use prosecutorial discretion for young people brought to the United States before they came of age. According to Morton, some appropriate factors to consider when exercising prosecutorial discretion include the alien's length of presence in the United States, whether the alien came as a young child, the alien's pursuit of education in the United States, with particular consideration to those who have graduated from a U.S. high school or are pursuing a college or advanced degree, and the alien's ties and contributions to the community. On June 15th, 2012, President Obama's administration created a deferred action program for childhood arrivals, and the USCIS began formally accepting DACA applications on August 15th, 2012. To be eligible for DACA, a person who is otherwise in this country illegally must meet the following requirements. Number one, have come to the United States before the age of 16. Two, have continuously resided in the United States for at least the 5 years preceding June 15th, 2007, and be present in the United States when the DACA memo was issued. Three, be currently enrolled in school, have graduated from high school, have obtained a general education development GED certificate, or be an honorably discharged veteran. Number four, have not been convicted of a felony, a significant misdemeanor, multiple misdemeanors, or otherwise pose a threat to national security or public safety. And five, not be above age 30. In short, DACA policy permits those individuals who arrived in the United States before the age of 16 and who meet the other age, education, continuous presence, and lack of criminal history requirements to remain in the United States for a renewable 2 year period of time and to apply for work authorization. As the program began, it was estimated there were approximately 1.8 million immigrants in the United States who might be or might become eligible for the Obama administration's deferred action, quote unquote, initiative for unauthorized youth brought to this country as children. To date, USCIS has approved more than 500,000 applications for DACA, with at least another 100,000 under review and likely more to come. Advocates for the DREAM Act and other legal remedies for undocumented students had never dreamed that a legal option as comprehensive as DACA would exist that would confer these specific benefits to this otherwise ignored population. Although DACA is relatively new, it is only the latest incarnation of deferred action, a practice that has existed in U.S. immigration law for some time, as John Lennon was famously granted it in 1975. I feel like she should have said former Beatle John Lennon. Like, I think a lot of people won't know
Yeah.
who John Lennon is today, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like who? Okay.
Deferred action as a status is mentioned in several places in the U.S. Code, and various sections of the Code of Federal Regulations recognized that deferred action beneficiaries are deemed lawfully present for most purposes under federal law. The brand of deferred action previously in play stems from two memos issued on June 17th, 2011, by ICE Director John Morton related to prosecutorial discretion. These memos call on ICE attorneys and employees to refrain from pursuing non citizens with close family, educational, military, or other ties in the U.S. for deportation and instead to spend the agency's limited resources on those persons who pose a serious threat to public safety or national security. Prosecutorial discretion of the Morton memo variety evolved into the DACA era scheme in play at present. The principal differences between the two are eligibility for employment authorization and conferral of lawful presence. Unlike Morton, prosecutorial discretion, DACA beneficiaries are eligible for an employment authorization document or work permit. Also, DACA confers legal presence for the time period in which an individual receives it. In contrast, prosecutorial discretion was never spelled out prior to DACA as conferring lawful presence. DACA has resulted in significant benefits for those who qualify, but it has also created confusion among state officials as to which state benefits, if any, should be available to DACA recipients. A lawfully present person without a foreign domicile to which he or she can return becomes eligible for driver's licenses, in state tuition, and many of the occupational licenses. However, states disagree as to whether DACA does in fact confer quote unquote lawful presence and what state and federal benefits allow or state and federal benefits follow with that status. So, what do we think of that first? That number one, part one.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because it reminds me of her annoying novel where once again she's taking the stories of these oppressed people of color that she's saving so that she
Hmm.
can then springboard onto something to make herself look good
Right.
and act like she's the expert. And they needed her
Yeah.
because without her, they wouldn't have been saved. So, but I did take a quick look thanks to Google, and it looks like this student did succeed. He has his own practice. Uh,
Mm.
let's see, where did I put it here? Yeah. So he's an attorney in Bradenton. Is that
Oh,
in South Florida?
I don't think so. Let
Okay.
me look real quick, but I think
Yeah, I have no
Bradenton is
idea.
near Tampa. Bradenton.
Says he's an experienced immigration attorney, and uh, he
Okay,
also.
it's near Sarasota. So it's on the West Coast, central-ish
Mhm.
Florida. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder how he feels about Wendy these days. Is he still a
Uh,
supporter?
she was his professor. I always wondered what qualified her to become a professor. How long had she practiced?
She hadn't. That's why it's so obvious that she got the job because of Dan. I mean, can you imagine being a young law student and you're like, oh, who's this person who just graduated from University of Miami Law School and she's going to teach us
Teach. Yeah.
immigration law or something about human trafficking and medical legal issues or
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know.
Yeah. That I've always wondered that, like, okay, she was a professor, but what experience did she really have?
Yeah, she didn't because let's see, sounds like she did get a master's degree before she went to law school, but it was constant, college to grad school
Hmm.
to law school. Yeah. So usually, I mean, here's the thing is that most law professors barely practiced because they want like cream of the crop people from, say, Ivy League law
Like
schools.
Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah, but even still, most of them do have some work experience, like clerking for a judge first,
Hmm.
and maybe working for a few years for a
Right.
big law firm. Yeah, then they can potentially get a job if they
Yeah.
published.
But had she
Published.
done any clerking? Because
Not
she
at that
married
time.
Dan when she was still in law school,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
So I was like, yeah, I've never thought. And then when she's on the witness stand saying really stupid things as an attorney,
Yeah,
it kind of reinforces that. Like I saw someone say in the chat, she didn't know this, this, and this, as an attorney and a professor. But the most important thing that even came up at Donna's trial recently was that she didn't remember what dismissal with prejudice meant because it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
come
right.
up in her daily practice. Like,
Well, that's
what?
true because, well, I mean, it doesn't seem like she's really practiced at all anyway. So it's kind of funny when Georgia asks her, "How long have you been an attorney?" And she says, "Since
Since
2006."
2006.
I'm like, let's see, you're like a clinical professor for a while, then you clerked for a judge, then seems like she got some sort of job for that impact fund
Hmm.
for to help immigrants or
She
something.
said she opened her own practice.
Yeah, but I don't see much any proof of that. So, I mean, she
Exactly.
calls it what is it, Wendi Adelson PA, but there's no website.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think she, there's a saying, you play dumb to catch wise. So she often does that. She knows the answer, like when they're asking her certain things, how do you spell gibbers? But she thinks somehow it's beneficial to pretend she doesn't know how to spell it
Yeah,
when
especially
it's
at the
programmed in her
beginning.
phone.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, it's like, why would you even lie about these things? Do you not realize how stupid and evil you're looking? And, you know, but I think the first couple of trials, she probably didn't realize this is going to be on YouTube forever. And lots of people are going to watch it for all these years.
I
So she
think
thought she could get away with it.
I would say in the first trial, my impression of her was arrogance. In the
Yeah.
2019, she came across as if she felt her family was untouchable on this. They got them, but they don't have enough to come after us. The second trial, Charlie had been arrested shortly before it started. And I think you kind of see a little less of that smugness, but it's kind of still there.
Yeah.
But by the time Charlie's on trial, I feel like that's gone. She was still trying to deflect and trying to avoid answering things, but that smugness was gone. And it
Hmm.
was definitely gone at Donna's trial. And I think she was more forthcoming at Donna's trial because she saw that the, Georgia had a
The
tab to
big
send her to.
binder.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
tab 3, line
Yeah,
5.
that was great. That was great.
Refresh your
Like,
memory.
see, that's why when people are like, well, they need more time to prepare, I'm like, well, it looks like Georgia Cappleman has been prepared. Like,
Well,
why
she's
can't they just
prepared,
go
but they
ahead?
do need time to prepare for a Wendy trial because
Yeah,
again, there are a number of
different
exculpatory type
details.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of circumstantial. Unless they do have the smoking guns, it's very circumstantial and she can I think when you put it all together, she can't defend it. It's too much, you know. But and certain things are clear that she asked Dan if he was going to be in town for his murder. To me, that's huge.
Hmm.
Um, she gave had to have given Donna his license plate number.
Hmm.
She was trying to set Jeff Lacasse up to be a suspect. I don't think they were trying to have him, take the fall for it. They weren't trying to plant a gun on him or anything, but they were trying to make him a suspect so that
Yeah,
the police
it's a
would be
distraction.
chasing him exactly. And she was definitely key in doing that. And this information we just found out at Donna's trial that she texted Rob and
Hmm.
told Rob that her parents didn't know about him, which was a
Yeah,
blatant lie.
like, yeah, it's so bizarre. It's like, why would you need to do that? She just wanted Jeff to look as shady as possible.
Yes. And then when you cut back to her and Detective Isom on the day of the interview, when Isom asks her about Jeff because Jane had brought Jeff up, her
Yeah.
friend Jane, then she goes, I'm not trying to hide anything. Yes, you are. That's
Yeah.
exactly what you're trying to do. That's why
Hmm.
she's saying that. Oh, I wasn't trying to hide anything by not mentioning him. Yes, you are.
Yeah,
That's why
because
you wrote Rob, sent him a picture, and told him, oh, the parents don't know about him,
yeah, this is the new secret boyfriend, by the way, which
which
is
is such an
ridiculous
obvious
because
lie.
he had already met her parents before,
Multiple
more
times.
than once. Yeah.
He said they had gone to like a Hanukkah party. He went to a Hanukkah party with her parents, or at least with Donna. They had done things together.
Hmm.
So it's obvious she was trying to set Rob up to mention him to the police.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just want to bring this up one more time.
Yep.
Just new stuff we found out.
Yep.
Ew, let's see. Well, hopefully you
Condominium
guys can see
lease.
it.
Oh yeah, she was added as a resident in April.
Hmm.
Um, the license plate number in Donna's planner telling Rob about secret boyfriend. Wendy and Donna specifically plotted to drop the bomb. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and her inconsistency in telling Rob and Sarah Yusuf, what's her friend, Sarah Yusuf,
Sarah. Hmm.
that Danny had no shortage of enemies.
Hmm.
So, oh, anybody could have killed him. That's not what she told Detective Isom. Oh, I can't think of anybody who would want to hurt him.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a bunch of weird
Very
stories, but
inconsistent.
yes.
Cancel the cable. Exactly. Taking the pictures off the wall,
Yeah. The pictures.
the
Taking
kids'
the kids'
drawings.
pictures.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Stopped possible charges of Tallahassee home. Possible purchase. Yeah.
Purchase.
Yeah. Um, Ask Jeff when children develop memories. Yes, that was a big
Yeah.
one.
That is just so sad. It's like, so don't you even think about how this is going to affect your children? That's horrible because I still remember stuff from when I was 2 and 3 years old.
They thought the kids would be better off without Dan.
Yeah.
You can just hear Donna saying that because
Yeah.
there was an email where she said she's concerned about him brainwashing the kids with the religious stuff or
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah. You'll have two little Orthodox young men
Yeah,
on
who
your
won't want to
hands.
eat in your non-kosher home and
Yeah.
whatever. And that was ridiculous. What was going to happen is Dan was going to have to accept that when the kids are with their mom, they don't eat kosher. There's nothing he can do about that. When they're with
Hmm.
him, he can feed them kosher. That's fine. But he wasn't going to be able to control what Wendy fed them.
Hmm.
So the idea that he was indoctrinating them and he was going to poison their minds, that was all coming from Donna.
Yeah. Well, I think Wendy also felt annoyed by him, calling him an STD and
She hated
saying
him.
that,
She said it multiple
she's,
times. She
yeah,
hated him.
she's never going to be rid of him unless something happened to Danny, or she couldn't move unless something happened to Danny.
Yeah.
So that's just very bizarre. Why would you say that to Jeff within less than a week before he's killed off?
And it never made sense to me why Jeff Lacasse would have been would have had a motive to kill Dan. It didn't
Yeah,
make any
that's so
sense.
stupid. It's like, oh, he'll get mad because I broke up with him, so he's
Yeah,
gonna kill
gonna go
Dan
kill Dan so
as
then I can leave
retaliation. Yeah,
Tallahassee.
that makes no sense. So stupid. That does sound
Yeah.
like some sort of like silly Donna concoction, with her poor logic. Yeah.
But look at Wendy in the police interview. I'm thinking
Mhm.
somebody could have done this
Yeah,
because they
somebody could
think it
have
would be
done this
good for
for
me.
me. Yeah.
Right. So that's
Hmm.
her trying to point the finger at Jeff Lacasse. Not
Yeah.
because they hated Danny, but because they think it would be good for me somehow.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is just so weird. Like, if you had nothing to do with it and he was killed out of the blue, why wouldn't you think, like, gosh, were they trying to
Rob him?
steal money from him?
Road
Was his
rage?
house burglarized? Yeah, exactly. It's like, how did it happen? Did they just run up to him at the house and shoot him? Was their stuff
Exactly.
stolen? Yeah.
Exactly. She immediately knew it was targeted. She
Hmm.
immediately knew.
And it was
When
probably
her
her
friend
family.
when her friend Jane came to the police station, one of the first things she said to Detective Isom was there any evidence of a break-in or something? She was
Hmm.
asking, like, was it a robbery gone wrong?
Yeah, that's what
Wendy
you
never
think.
went there. Wendy was always just immediately knowing somebody did this to him. He didn't do this to himself.
Hmm.
Nobody suggested it was a suicide, but she kept saying he wouldn't
Yeah,
do this to himself. Somebody did this to him.
yeah. Exactly. Like, why wouldn't she even ask, like, where was he shot? How
Right,
did it happen?
right.
Because why would she even think to say the thing about suicide. It's so
She
bizarre.
repeated that like 3
Yeah.
times, that he wouldn't have done it to
Yeah, it was
himself.
sort of like some rehearsed thing, like, oh,
Exactly.
like I'm so innocent. Maybe he killed himself. Ooh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the prosecutors are gonna have to really put all that together in a concise way to show that this was all choreographed, and she from the text to her brother, she was plotting setting Jeff up. During her interview, she deliberately didn't mention Jeff, right, as her boyfriend that she'd been seeing. She let
Hmm.
her friends and her brother mention Jeff.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's going to be a little bit of a delicate thing to show
Hmm.
all the tentacles Wendy had in this.
Yeah.
Because as that jury foreperson, Donna's jury foreperson said, Wendy did a good job of trying to insulate herself from it all, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's they're going to really have to do it well at her
Yeah.
trial.
That's why Jeff is such an important witness because he
Hmm.
also noticed the bizarre behavior during the first trip to kill
Yep.
Dan and how he could have been set up too because she suddenly had stomach problems and he had to drive out to buy her
But
Pepto
he was
Bismol.
going out of town. She was
Yeah.
nervous, I guess, because they were supposed to do it, the
Mm.
murder. But he was going out of town that same morning,
Oh, okay.
in
Yeah.
June. Yeah, he
Okay.
had
I
another
thought,
trip planned. So he
yeah.
said that. I think at Charlie's trial, where he specifically said, I have 2 trips planned in my car in 2014, and both
Oh,
times hitmen are in town to kill Danny
wow.
Markel.
You know these details so well. How
Yeah,
many times have you watched the trials?
enough.
Do you just like sit there every night and listen to a
No, not
segment
every night.
of a trial? Like, I feel like doing that because it's like we're just counting down the days. It's like, is anything going to happen?
I'll tell
You
you
know?
what I have done. So I have some, of my favorite YouTubers who watched the trial when it was happening. And of
Hmm.
course, you can't watch it with all of them when it's unfolding. So I
Hmm.
have gone back and watched it again with them. So I have seen it multiple times,
Yeah.
especially certain testimony, not the whole thing, but
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Be-
that's what he said, that he was when he was planning to travel out of town in June, he did go. The hitmen were in town that same day, that week.
mhm.
So clearly he believes they were trying to make, him look like a suspect.
Hmm. That's right. Yeah. And plus, Jeff, over different trials, has given more details about that whole TV thing,
Yeah,
which makes it sound so suspicious. It's like,
very.
why would any normal person, just have kids sitting around watching a busted TV and refuse to replace it for weeks? And, there's
Over a month.
yeah, there
Yeah,
was something important about that date. That's what Jeff said in his police interview. I knew it was like drum beats. I knew there was something weird was about to happen, and
exactly.
there was something important about that July 18th date.
And
Yeah.
that's why Wendy's arrest and charging is going to be the sweetest,
Yeah.
because she, that text, "This is so sweet," that
Mm-hmm.
morning, she hated Dan so much and resented him for making her have to live in Tallahassee, that she hated. She resented him so much that she wasn't willing to go along with the $1 million bribe. She wasn't willing to pay him a third of $1 million, to allow her to leave Tallahassee, but she was willing to go along with this murder.
Yeah.
That's what
Because
strikes me.
because that would mean the end of all this misery being stuck in
And she'd
Tallahassee
win. Yeah,
and
they
having to
win.
deal with Danny for all these years and the court litigation and
And his life was going
Tallahassee is
well. I
horrible.
think she was probably jealous of his relationship with
Yeah.
Amy, right? She had just met her. I think she was jealous of Dan.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yes.
thank you,
Yeah.
Verdi,
Thank you.
Vertis.
Thank you guys out there. Sorry, can't address everybody. But yeah, totally. Because for someone like Wendy, she was a high achiever. She
Hmm.
always won things,
Right,
top of the
valedictorian,
class,
wasn't she?
valedictorian,
Hmm.
guys falling over her and stuff. But then suddenly she's stuck in, you know,
Podunk,
Yeah,
Florida.
Hickville, Tallahassee, Hiawassee Springs, and she's only got this clinical law professor job
Right.
where Dan is the superstar who gets
Dan
all the
makes twice as
respect.
much
And
as her.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, he's the one being invited to go to conferences and speak and get published in more
Yes.
prestigious law review articles. He has all the respect being a
Hmm.
tenure track professor.
Yes.
Whereas it seemed like her career, she had hit the ceiling
And
and
she
she was
didn't feel
stuck.
she could do, and as we've talked about, I think on one of the previous live streams, they probably didn't like his choice of becoming a professor. They
Yeah.
probably would have wanted him to be a high powered corporate lawyer or something, partner in a big law firm, making millions a year. That's probably what they had in mind when she married him.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead.
That's what Dan's mom said in her
Mm-hmm.
book. Did
Mm-hmm.
you get a
I
copy
read
of
Ruth
that?
Markel's book. I have it. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm.
Very highly recommended.
Yes, I do recommend The Unveiling.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I can just imagine Donna just, griping and complaining, like, why is he leaving the law firm? He's
Exactly.
supposed to make partner and then make millions of dollars a year at some
Exactly.
big corporate firm. And whereas a law professor still makes pretty good money, especially in
Yeah, but not
Tallahassee.
millions a year.
Yeah, but not, like 2 million or plus a year
Mm-mm.
and stuff. So, that since Donna's so into prestige and money, I'm sure
Yes,
that wasn't good enough
that wasn't a
for her
popular thing.
princess.
And then
Yeah.
Tallahassee, I'm speaking now comparing it to South Florida because I live in South Florida, born and raised here. I've never been to Tallahassee, but for Wendy's trial, I'm going to go.
Yes. Yeah, I'll be there too. Yeah, be there with this microphone and,
Yeah.
laptop and stuff. And
I'm gonna
yeah.
be there, not to
Hmm.
sit in the courtroom every day, but just to be there maybe 1 or 2 days in the courtroom because it's better to watch on
Yeah,
TV,
it actually
and hang
is.
out with you guys, the
Sure.
community. But
Well,
we got to celebrate Wendy's arrest for
yeah.
sure, and being charged for this, and but yeah, so Tallahassee, when we graduated from high school, I had, a lot of my friends that went to FSU for college,
Hmm.
and they would, every chance they got, they were down here for the weekend. They hated Tallahassee.
Oh.
They were like,
Oh.
"Oh my god, it's so boring." It was too slow compared to South Florida. It just didn't have the same lifestyle. So they
Hmm.
were up there for school, but they would always drive down for the weekends to try
Yeah.
to, get out of the Tallahassee. So I always had that view of it, that it wasn't like South Florida and everybody hated it. But it's really just more southern, right? Than we have down here in South Florida.
Yeah.
Um and but I'm sure it's a lovely place. It just wasn't for them, and that's fine. She hated it, that's fine, but it is what it is. You married him, now you're divorced. You can't just leave with the children. It's
Hmm.
not realistic to think you can do that. But Jeff Lacasse says she was so bitter and resentful about it that at their first date, that's all she was
Oh
talking about.
yeah,
She was so
yeah.
upset.
I know, and it's like this shows like what a nice guy Jeff is, because most guys would be
He
like,
should have
"What?
been
She's
running
just
for
like
the hills.
griping." Yeah, why is she spending the first date griping about her ex? That's always like a big no-no. Like you put your best foot forward, but it just goes to show how blinded he was because she's so hot looking and had
Exactly.
that sensuality and stuff, and he
Hmm.
thought she was like a goddess or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah. But he
So.
had many, many yellow and red flags that
Mhm.
should have told him, yeah, she's not ready.
Yeah, but she totally took advantage of his social work background and how nice and caring he is because that's his
Yeah.
profession.
Right.
To listen to people and feel sorry for them and want to help them.
But it sounds like she was totally just stringing him along because she was seeing a myriad of other men.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, even in his police interview, he was talking about that she was
Hmm.
seeing all these other guys, and that guy Daniel Sack was encouraging her to do polyamory, and
Yeah. Hmm.
it's like, Yeah, so she was just using Jeff. I'm sure he was helping her a lot with the kids and
Yes,
other
mopping her
things,
floors and
mopping her
watching the
floor.
kids while she was out with the other guy.
Yeah,
Jeez, how
and
humiliating.
exactly.
Yeah.
So she was using him. Yeah.
Yeah, poor guy. Yeah. So I sure hope he has good security because, this case has lasted for 11
11
plus
years.
years.
Mhm.
And, we've seen how Donna was still trying to manipulate people,
My
even
God.
in jail. That's how they think they can get away with everything. It's like just use
Exactly.
their
Use money.
power, money to
Mhm.
control people and get what they want. So, yeah.
She's probably going to have to do that in prison. Hope
Well,
their money
well,
lasts.
Harvey is still out, so who knows what he's up to. I mean, he doesn't seem senile, so yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Well, do you want to get back to
Yeah,
reading? How
let's
do you
let's do
feel?
part 2. We can
Okay,
we
do you
can
need
go.
some water?
Let me get some.
Okay, thank you so much. You're
Mhm.
totally helping me. I really appreciate that. Thank
Let's
you.
see what she has to say in part
Okay,
2.
some more. The bleeding heart liberal who is saving all these people of color. Yeah.
The white savior.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, number
Where were
2.
we? Two. Okay.
The states are confused about how to respond to DACA eligible persons. Although immigration law itself is a federal question, the enactment of certain laws and policies as they affect immigrant populations is a matter for the states. Driver's licenses, in state tuition, and professional licensing are those that most significantly impact DACA recipients. Should DACA recipients be eligible for in state tuition? Once they graduate from college and then pursue post secondary education, can or should these quote unquote lawfully present individuals be granted access to certain professions through states issuing professional licenses? Should the state issue them driver's licenses so that they may commute to school and work? This section will explore the tensions inherent in those legal decisions. A. Driver's licenses. A state and not the federal government gets to decide who is eligible to drive within its borders. For the most part, applicants for a state driver's license must provide a social security number, evidence of lawful immigration status, a birth certificate to determine age eligibility, and evidence of residence within that state. Because the rules governing eligibility for driver's licenses vary by state, a grant of DACA does not necessarily guarantee access to a license to drive in that state. Even though driver's licenses are ostensibly a state issue, since drivers often cross state borders, this movement creates an interstate issue that implicates federal law. The Real ID Act of 2005 is a federal law that includes guidance for states when issuing driver's licenses to non citizens. As part of that guidance, the Real ID Act specifically lists quote unquote deferred action, of which DACA is a type, as a lawful status that would permit the issuance of a federally recognized driver's license valid during the period of authorized stay in the United States. In most states, DACA recipients who obtain an employment authorization document and a social security number are likely to be eligible for a driver's license, provided they produce the rest of the required documentation. But a few state officials have announced that they will ignore or alter their state's rules by denying licenses to DACA youth, and some states already impose restrictive document requirements. Navigating life without a driver's license makes everything more challenging for a DACA recipient. Certainly, obtaining a driver's license facilitates a person's ability to work or attend classes. But from a community perspective, disseminating driver's licenses better serves the public interest in having trained and tested drivers on the road. States continue to debate DACA eligibility for driver's licenses, and a lack of uniformity on this issue persists, making the benefits associated with a DACA grant different depending on the state where you live. The same inconsistency exists with respect to in state tuition. B. In state tuition. In a time of shrinking state budgets and fewer job opportunities for college graduates, state colleges and universities are wrestling with the question of what benefits to bestow upon DACA recipients. The question of in state tuition as it applies to DACA recipients has led to different solutions in states across the country. Currently, approximately 40 of the states have a provision that allows for undocumented students to receive in-state tuition, but two do not, and two states do not permit undocumented students even to enroll at their state's post-secondary institutions. Some of these DACA eligible young people, are high school valedictorians, raised in the United States and eager to contribute to our economy and our society. To choose not to let them enroll in their closest public university is short sighted, if only from an economic perspective. The same anti immigrant sentiment that denies college to individuals will also inspire a decision to deny post college employment. To date, at least 17 states have made it possible for students who have attended primary schools in the United States to pay the same in state tuition as their American born counterparts at public institutions of higher education. In direct contrast, some states have officially opposed in state tuition for DACA recipients, stating, as Virginia's State Council of Higher Education did, that DACA beneficiaries should be considered quote unquote non residents for purposes of qualifying for in state tuition for Virginia colleges and universities. These institutions grant in state tuition status to Virginia domiciliaries, quote unquote, and Virginia law defines domiciliary intent as the present intent to remain in Virginia indefinitely. Virginia has granted driver's licenses to DACA beneficiaries, but not provided for in state tuition. This decision by Virginia's State Council of Higher Education is at odds with the structure of the DACA program, which is presently structured as indefinitely renewable, such that a DACA beneficiary can form a reasonable present legal intent to remain indefinitely, satisfying the domiciliary intent requirement for an in state tuition in Virginia. The question as to whether a DACA recipient can attend a public post secondary institution, let alone receive in state tuition, hinges on the meaning of quote unquote lawful presence. A grant of DACA confers a temporary period of lawful presence. The difference between DACA and, say, F1J or other non immigrant statuses is that DACA recipients do not maintain a foreign domicile and have no intent to return to a country to which they have no meaningful ties. Provided that a lawfully present DACA recipient meets the durational requirement for tuition in that state, no legal reason exists to deny them this benefit. In a recent Georgia case, the question turned on an issue apart from lawful presence. A Georgia state trial court granted the University System of Georgia's Board of Regents motion to dismiss against DACA beneficiary Georgia college students seeking in state tuition, finding that the board is protected from suit by sovereign immunity. However, in addressing the quote unquote lawful presence question, the court made some interesting observations that work in favor of viewing DACA recipients as lawfully present and therefore eligible for in state tuition in theory. First, the court acknowledged that, quote, the fact that Georgia allows DACA recipients to obtain a driver's license, a public benefit for which lawful presence must be verified, seems to support the plaintiff's contention that the state regards them as being lawfully present. The court further emphasized the obfuscation of the issue of lawful presence, terming it bureaucratic doublespeak. quote unquote, that the board allows driver's licenses to constitute verification of lawful presence, but the very individuals that the defendants contend are not lawfully present may obtain a Georgia driver's license as a result of DACA. Although the court declared that the ambiguity of the policies at issue and how lawful presence is being construed cry out for judicial clarification, that clarification is precluded by sovereign immunity in that case. The court, however, closed by noting the reality that DACA recipients can live, work, and drive legally in Georgia, which arguably precludes a determination that they are, quote unquote, unlawfully present, whether granted or denying access to a public college or university. It does raise the question of what comes next for DACA eligible young people. C. Occupational licensing. In the case of my former law student, Jose Manuel, the Florida Supreme Court certified that the question of whether an undocumented person who graduates from an accredited U.S. law school and passes the bar in Florida should be issued a license to practice created a conundrum for the Florida Board of Bar Examiners and the Florida Supreme Court. For the purposes of this paper, we will limit the discussion of immigration status and occupational licensing to the practice of law, but recognize that it has broader application to the fields of medicine, dentistry, and beyond. Expanding or ensuring access to certain occupational licensing for undocumented persons to some is a logical extension of other measures enacted in recent years that provide such immigrants with driver's licenses, lower college tuition, and access to public financial aid and private funds held by the state, universities. To others, the question of who qualifies for occupational licenses issued by a state turns on proper interpretation of Section 1621 of Title 8 of the U.S. Code, referring to aliens who are not qualified aliens or non immigrants ineligible for state and local public benefits, one of which is a professional license. 1621 basically states that non citizens are ineligible for state or local benefits, but also contains a subsection expressly authorizing a state to render a non citizen eligible to obtain a professional license through the enactment of a state law meeting specified requirements. California and Florida have recently dealt with the application of 1621 to bar admission for lawyers who are undocumented or lawfully present as DACA recipients. 1. California. In the beginning of January 2014, the California Supreme Court ruled that undocumented immigrant Sergio Garcia could be licensed to practice law in that state. The court rejected the claim that undocumented immigration status makes a bar application per se ineligible for a bar license. A product of the California public elementary and secondary schools, Garcia put himself through college and then attended an unaccredited law school in California. Garcia passed the California bar exam on the first try and then passed the moral character portion of the bar. In the spring of 2012, the California Supreme Court issued an order to show cause why Garcia should be admitted to practice law and invited briefing on a number of immigration law and policy issues. In its briefing on the issue, the Obama administration opposed Garcia's admission, claiming that federal law required an affirmative legislative enactment in order to license an undocumented immigrant to practice law. In September 2013, the court held oral arguments, and many questions centered on whether a state legislative enactment was necessary. To address the issue, the California legislature, with bipartisan support, quickly passed a law signed by Governor Jerry Brown, rendering undocumented immigrants eligible to practice law. The California Supreme Court invited further briefing on the question of the effect of the California legislature's action. After briefing was completed, the court issued its opinion 1 day after the legislative enactment went into effect. The California Supreme Court in the Garcia case had certified the question: does 8 USC section 1621C apply and preclude this court's admission of an undocumented immigrant to the State Bar of California? Does any other statute, regulation, or authority preclude the admission? They then found that in light of the recent enactment of legislation permitting Garcia to practice law, the court did not need to determine the validity of the parties' contentions with regard to the proper interpretation of Section 1621C 1A. In those states where lawyers who are undocumented or lawfully present doing DACA have yet to apply for bar admission, what should a court do in the absence of legislative action? For those cases of first impression yet to come, some analysis is warranted. I join the contention that once an individual is lawfully present, 1621 and 1623 no longer apply. No federal statute precludes a state from issuing a law license to an undocumented immigrant. Yes, California passed a prophylactic statute for Sergio Garcia, but for DACA recipients like Jose Manuel Godinez Samperio, once they have their EAD or authorization to work through their immigration status, they should be considered the same as those individuals granted temporary protected status or TPS, or advanced parole, or permanently residing under color of law, PRUCOL, who are all eligible for professional licenses given their lawfully present status. Number 2, Florida. In March 2014, the Florida Supreme Court considered the question of whether a DACA recipient with work authorization who passed the bar exam could be granted a law license. The question turned largely on the court's interpretation of Section 1621 of Title 8 of the U.S. Code. The applicant for admission, Jose Manuel Godinez Samperio, argued that 1621 did not prevent the state of Florida from issuing him a license to practice law because Florida's constitutional provision authorizing Florida to license attorneys overcomes 1621D's requirement that states have a specific law granting particular benefits to undocumented immigrants. The Supreme Court of Florida disagreed, finding that 1621 requires a state wishing to confer a benefit, such as a public license, on an undocumented immigrant to pass legislation specifically authorizing such a benefit. In response, the Florida legislature on May 2nd, 2014, passed HB 755, a bipartisan bill which specifically authorized the Florida bar to license undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as minors, have lived in the United States for at least 10 years, are eligible for DACA, and are qualified for admission to the bar to be admitted. Upon passing the law, the Florida House of Representatives gave Jose Manuel a standing ovation. That's what I'm saying. Her writing is it doesn't flow very well.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird that she waited until like 85% of the law review article is about done to start addressing this
What she opened with.
law licensing issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see why it wasn't accepted into, say, like Stanford, Harvard, Yale law review. So, okay, is that catty? Oh, well, just the truth,
Just an observation.
Yeah. Okay. But I
Okay.
have to say, this is actually better than the other narcissistic essay that some law journal did publish, which I've read previously. So maybe some other time, since things are
We
slow,
can read that.
you can read that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody was like, "Oh my God, you sound horrible. Who can listen to this?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just trying to give you guys some new information, but sometimes delivery, counts more to people than the substance." So thank you again for your
No
help.
problem.
Okay,
Okay,
we're
so
almost done.
part 3, the future of DACA with respect to comprehensive immigration reform. Almost 20 years have passed since the last big immigration overhaul in 1996. Since that legislative effort, the country has seen an enforcement led policy and a system that does not respond well to the changing economic needs of our nation. Nevertheless, comprehensive immigration reform remains elusive. If comprehensive immigration reform does come to pass, there are several possibilities for DACA's continued viability. One possibility is that comprehensive immigration reform legislation will adopt and expand DACA as part of an earned legalization program. Some experts postulate that comprehensive immigration reform legislation might contain a provision placing DACA recipients at the front of the line for adjusting their statuses to that of permanent residents. If that happens, then DACA grantees could petition for their parents when they turn 21. Some argue that the continuation of DACA is uncertain, as it is contingent on who gets voted into office in 2016. Whoever the next president is, the likelihood of rescinding DACA for more than 700,000 kids is negligible. Unless they leave the country or commit crimes, DACA beneficiaries will likely retain that status for life. If comprehensive immigration reform comes to pass, DACA eligible individuals will likely have more legal remedies available to them, not fewer. Nevertheless, it is important to acknowledge that DACA is not a panacea or an enduring substitute for comprehensive immigration reform. Conclusion: Jose Manuel Godinez Samperio can now legally work, drive, and practice law. He is eager to be the attorney instead of the client in his future cases. Jose Manuel Godinez Samperio in Florida and Sergio Garcia in California will not be the last two individuals or states to confront these questions of lawfully present lawyers in the United States in a post DACA world. States can choose to deny this population access to driver's licenses or in state tuition, but they can also choose to comply with state and federal law and policy and ensure streamlined access to education, licensure, work, transportation, and mobility to harvest the talent that we have already planted in this generation of U.S. educated students and young professionals. That's it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. That was great, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. Oh, thank you. I don't know what people are talking about. Okay.
Layoff of
Uh,
Judy. Yeah.
okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you, guys. Okay, Warfare is saying he or she just meant the volume was low. Okay, so I'm trying to speak more loudly into this mic. Yeah. Just because you're in law shouldn't stop you from being arrested for a crime on the country. Okay. Um,
Yeah, I've
right.
heard people commenting about, on different videos I've seen, um, oh, they're gonna wait until the boys are older and, things like that. And I'm like, I don't think that would be a consideration because
Yeah, I agree.
Sigfredo and
Yeah.
and
Katie had
Katie's
young
kids were
children.
not considered
Louis
when they
Rivera
arrested
had a
both of their
baby.
parents.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Louis Rivera had
So
a baby. They didn't care. They scooped him up right away. But, I was just positing that maybe they're at least waiting until the semester is over, until winter break starts, maybe. But, we'll just have to wait and see because I still feel optimistic because there's a reason why the state went ahead and named her as a co-conspirator
exactly.
way back in
Way back.
2022 January.
Yeah.
So why would the state refer to her as a co-conspirator and make comments that they're not going to give up until everyone is held accountable?
That's
And
right.
that doesn't seem right. It seems like they do strongly believe she had a hand in this whole conspiracy.
Well, there's no doubt about it that they know she was involved. People have always just debated, do they have enough? Do they have enough?
Yeah.
Um, And I think they absolutely do. I'm not a lawyer or anything, but every single juror that has spoken out and been asked about their impressions of Wendi has said they believe she was involved. They didn't believe her on the stand. That's
Hmm.
saying something. And this is not a Wendi trial, right? They are there for someone else's on trial, but the information they received from Wendi herself and all the other evidence, all the jurors have come away believing that Wendi was involved in this. So
Hmm.
it seemed
Yeah.
like a no-brainer.
Yeah. Plus the fact that I'm sure they do have more that hasn't had to be revealed.
Right.
So, yeah.
But how
So,
much more?
okay.
Is there a
So,
smoking gun?
okay.
That would be
So
awesome.
we did bring out some people who are, I totally appreciate people still caring about the case, and people are guessing that, hey, maybe it's over, that maybe she's not getting arrested. But that's why we're still here chattering about it, because we care. We
We
care about
absolutely care.
justice for Dan
Yes,
Markel.
that's
And,
right. So many people
it's,
do. And I think
yeah.
it's struck a chord around the world, because of the amount of time it's taken, because
Hmm.
it took so long to arrest an Adelson. And if you think about it, going back to the first trial against Sigfredo and Katie in 2019, they couldn't have convicted Sigfredo without saying Adelson, 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 Adelson. There was so much evidence to show that the Adelsons had hired these people, and yet they hadn't arrested an Adelson.
Hmm.
So I think that's why people have become so outraged, over time. Like, what is going on? These people have to be held accountable.
Yeah, that's so true. And for people who think that there's nothing on her, I mean, there is so much circumstantial evidence, at least what's been made public.
Yes.
And I'm sure there's more. But please, please feel free to watch my channel, because there's like tons of stuff that I've done since spring 2022
Yeah, Judy
on
has a
this
lot of good
case.
stuff. Yours is one of the first channels that I was what when I first discovered this, and which was like 2 months or so after Katie's retrial in 2022. Yours is one of the first channels I was watching.
Oh, thank you. So it just
Hmm.
kind of showed up as a suggestion.
I guess so. I don't really even remember what the first video that I stumbled on was, because
Hmm.
I didn't hear about this case. For those who don't know, I didn't know about the case when it happened. I didn't hear about it at all in 2014. The first time I heard anything about it was in 2022. And I'm so glad I came onto it then, because I don't know how I would have survived all the years of no Adelsons being arrested.
Oh,
I just don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine Dan's family? Like all those years,
Exactly.
they didn't
Oh,
know if anything was
I'm
going
sure
to
they had given
happen,
up. I'm sure the Markels had
or
given up
just
that these
felt
people would be
depressed.
arrested. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as I've said before, the bump happened in 2016, and I'm sure it was not public, right? That investigation. But it
Hmm.
happened in 2016, and then they arrested Sigfredo, Lewis, Katie.
Hmm.
The Adelsons weren't arrested. Charlie wasn't arrested for 6 more years.
Yeah.
Okay. After the bump, after all those recordings, after it was so obvious that they were involved, and you see the train cars happening, 6 years. So I'm
Hmm.
sure in that 6 year period, the Markels thought, yeah, they're not going to be held accountable. Even the Adelsons thought they gotten away with it. The police didn't
Yeah.
have enough against them. So
Exactly.
it took a long time, and I think that's what's caused so much interest, even in South Africa, and on STS you see people from South Africa and Australia who are really, really invested in this case.
Hmm. Yes. And um, so, for example, this is one video. I'm glad it got lots of views. This is from maybe this past summer with Professor Patuto and
Hmm.
Don DeKisto,
Okay.
where we discussed more reasons why we believe Wendi was involved in Dan Markel's murder. So I'm
Yeah.
going to include the link here. But the first one has gotten more views, which is great. Um, so total, it's like 5+ hours of discussion. We had so much to talk about.
I'm
I mean,
exactly. because she was absolutely involved. And I just think the focus at her trial has to be, I'm not sure. Does the law in Florida require an overt act?
Um, Joe Patuto said not for conspiracy. So, but for first degree murder, yes.
Ah,
So that was the issue in the Denise Williams case, which got
right.
overturned
Which I'm
on
very
appeal
familiar with.
for
I
the murder
followed
charge.
that.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Absolutely.
okay.
And everybody was so bummed when her first degree murder conviction was overturned. But when you look at the appeals courts, or I think the Supreme Court
Mm-hmm.
reasoning, it makes sense because the only evidence that existed was Brian Winchester's testimony
Mm-hmm.
saying that she was, a part of it and that she was supposed to make sure Mike went fishing or duck hunting that morning.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other evidence but his testimony about it. So, I mean, the jury thought it was a first degree murder, right? They
Mm-hmm.
believed him.
Yeah.
So I feel it should have stood on that. But, I guess I understand it, but at least she's not walking. That was the most important thing
Yeah.
because
She still
yeah.
got 30 years for
And
conspiracy.
she sent a message that was very damning, um, through Brian's ex-wife. Tell him I'm not talking. Something like that.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
I didn't
She
know
s she
that.
said,
Wow.
tell I think it was don't quote me on this, people who
Mm-hmm.
know this case, but I believe it was Denise talking to Brian's ex-wife because they were all friends. They all used to do
Yeah, they all
threesomes and stuff.
swinging
Yeah.
swingers. Yeah.
But when Brian was arrested for kidnapping her, kidnapping Denise, she sent a message to tell his father I'm not talking. Tell him, let him know I'm not talking, something like that. So that was very damning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hmm.
because she was totally in on it. Because both
Oh
of
yeah,
them, they wanted to kill him off so they could continue
he
their affair
sold
and
not just continue their affair, but
get
Brian
married.
sold Mike life insurance in
Oh, oh yeah,
preparation for the
yeah. Okay,
murder.
yeah. Thanks for jogging my
Yeah,
memory, boy.
they
You
were
have a good
living on his
memory.
money. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah. It was
killed him
money
for the
plus
life
wanting
insurance
wanting full custody of the
of the
daughter,
little girl.
no
Yeah,
embarrassment of getting
divorce.
divorced. Yeah, so they could be together.
And they
Yeah.
had been having an affair for years and kind of flaunting it in Mike's face from what the ex-wife testified that they'd gone out and Mike, Denise and Brian weren't really hiding
Yeah,
anything.
but
Like
they were
Mike was
swingers.
there.
But if they
Nah,
were into that swinging lifestyle, then the husband must have been like sort of okay
okay,
with it. I'm
I guess.
assuming.
But
I
he
mean,
didn't know the extent of their
yeah,
private
that they
affair.
were in
Yeah.
love. They
Mm-mm.
wanted to be together to the point where they would kill him, you
Exactly.
know. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. And, God bless his mother. I think her name is Cheryl Williams, who
Yes.
never gave up.
Hmm.
She knew her son wasn't eaten by alligators.
Hmm.
Um, and it's just funny how, Georgia Kappelman says she believes the truth has a way of coming out. And that case is proof of it because, 20 years passed. And it's not until Brian and Denise's, and for those who are here for the Markel case, sorry, we're off on a little
No, it's sort of
Mike
related.
Williams tangent,
Yeah.
but it is also a Tallahassee case, Florida. I believe it was Judge Hankinson who oversaw that. Um, but yeah, his mother knew that something fishy had happened. And when Denise threatened her not to continue to try to get the investigation reopened, threatened Mike's mother, she
Oh,
knew that she had to have had something to do with it.
oh, I
There was
didn't know
foul play.
that. What do you
Yeah.
mean? Like verbally told her to stop?
Denise and Brian both went over to Cheryl Williams' home,
Hmm.
and I believe her other son was there, Mike's brother, and they sat down at her kitchen table, and Denise told her, if you don't stop trying to get them to reopen this case, you will lose your granddaughter. You'll never see her again.
Oh, I had
So,
no idea.
yes, so
Oh,
Cheryl said, she spoke about it. She might have even said it in her statement at the sentencing or something.
Oh.
But she said, yeah, she knew. She says, I loved Ainsley, her granddaughter, but Mike was her son. And she had to find out what happened to her son. And that in that moment, she knew Denise had something to do with it. Why
Mm-hmm.
would she be threatening her? Not to try to get this reopened to find out what happened. He wasn't eaten by alligators. There's no evidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the truth came out only when Denise and Brian's marriage fell apart, some like almost 20 years later, maybe. And Denise was wanting to divorce him, break up, and he kidnapped her and I guess was planning to kill her.
Yeah,
But she
had
was,
stuck a gun in her side.
yes, in the
Yeah.
car.
Mm-hmm.
And she managed to talk him down. She was able to talk him down and convince him that it was all right, blah, blah, blah. And then she immediately went to the police. As soon as she got free from him, she went to report it to the police, which was her biggest mistake because obviously she had thought they'd gotten away with Mike's murder. That was done.
Mm-hmm.
But when she went to the police to try to get Brian put away for kidnapping her, that opened the door on Mike's investigation again.
Yes.
And Brian was able to leverage that um, in his case, the kidnapping case against
Mm-hmm.
Denise, and of course Tim Jansen represented him. And there's a show where Tim Jansen spoke about that, and I've always just felt badly about how gleeful he is, how
I said
proud he
that too.
is
Yeah, I
about
said
his
that
the
on
deal
my
he got for Brian
members live
Winchester.
stream.
Oh
Yes,
my
that
God.
was on True Lifestyles because that was when Donna's trial was supposed to begin back in
Hmm.
September 2024.
Right.
And True Lifestyles and Katie Kool-Aid, he had some sort of Tallahassee gathering where
Hmm.
Tim was
I
sort of
remember
like a
that.
guest of
Yeah.
honor and he was asking or taking questions.
Yes.
So I mean, ultimately, we got to think, this poor innocent man who was, a good father, he was killed by
By
his
his best
evil best
friend,
friend
so-called
and
best
his
friend.
own wife.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for him to then be able to commit another crime and then leverage the information about what happened to Mike and where they could find his body. And Tim represents him to that and is so proud of the fact that he got the state to grant him immunity in Mike's murder. So
Well,
they can't
he got
prosecute
20
him,
years. It was
but
a
he got
20
20 years
year
for the
deal.
kidnapping.
Oh,
Not, yeah, he will never be charged or prosecuted for Mike's
oh,
murder. That was the
oh.
deal.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yes, Judy,
Oh, I guess
that
I'm
was
not
the
paying
deal.
attention to the details like
This is
you are.
why
How do you
Tim
know this?
Jansen is so proud because
Oh,
he's so proud of the fact that he got the state to agree not to prosecute him at all for Mike's murder. So he was sentenced for the kidnapping.
oh.
Exactly.
Okay,
So
I didn't get that. Thank you so much.
yeah,
How do you
look it
know all
up.
this? I mean, are you like
Because
such
that's
a
a case
true
I
crime
really
buff?
followed. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been into true crime since Betty Broderick, right? And the Menendez
Oh,
brothers and all that.
oh. Okay,
Yeah.
geez, you're totally. Thank you guys for this info. Yeah, because I didn't follow the case that closely. I only knew about it because I interviewed Stephen Epstein, who is
Oh
the
yeah, the
author of
author of
that
that
book
book.
about
Hmm.
Mike Williams's murder.
Yeah,
So it's a really good book. So,
yeah,
did you
but
read his book?
I didn't know.
Oh, I
But
wish.
I've seen a lot of YouTubers cover
Yeah,
the book. Yeah.
yeah. But it's a great book, plus the fact that he spoke extensively with Mike's mother. So I'm
Cheryl.
sure she was so thrilled somebody cared. Someone, after all
Yeah.
these years, believed her.
Her
And,
victim impact statement is heartbreaking, you know?
oh,
Yeah. That woman, I'm just glad she lived to see the justice.
mhm,
Because it was a long time. That murder happened in 2000, and I don't
mhm.
think things blew up until maybe 17, 18 years
Yes.
later.
Yeah, so many
Um,
years.
so
Yeah.
many years, and she never stopped writing the governor and standing out on the street corners with signs, help me
Mhm.
find out what happened to my son. And it took their marriage breaking up for Brian Winchester to fess up and get on the witness stand and confess that he had murdered Mike.
Yeah.
And yeah, so back to Tim Jansen, it was just, that defense attorney thing. that makes people hate defense lawyers when they're trying to get guilty people off, because it's like, yeah, okay, you're defending him, you're representing him, you're trying to get him a deal, that's your job. But he was so proud.
Mhm.
This man who murdered his best friend in cold
Shot him
blood,
in the
shot his
head.
head off. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. And you're so proud he'll never be prosecuted for it. You got him that deal. I just ugh, it left
Yeah.
a bad taste in my
Yeah. It
mouth.
just kind of made me feel like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm glad I'm not
Yeah.
the only one. It put a bad taste in my mouth. I mean, I love Tim Jansen on STS, but yeah, I can't forget that.
Hmm.
Brian Winchester is the scum of the earth, and
Yeah.
his performance on the just one more comment on that. He testified against Denise. That was a part of the deal. So on the stand, he tells the whole story, and he's performing, in my opinion, to act like he's so remorseful and he
Remorseful.
feels so bad. But I don't believe that for 1 second, and people disagree with this. But I feel someone who had those types of feelings wouldn't have been capable of doing what he did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
He did that and he lived with it for many years until now it serves his interest to tell you about it.
Yes. Yes.
So I don't buy it. He's not remorseful. And I think he was jealous of Mike because he testifies about how his father, Brian's father, loved Mike. Okay.
Oh.
And would not, they would, they, he, his father wouldn't stop. Nope. We got to keep looking, searching that lake. Okay. When
Hmm.
Mike went missing, Brian's father was so desperate to find Mike because he loved him like a son. I
Oh.
think Brian must have had some jealousy or something going on,
Hmm.
not just over Denise, but maybe even with his own father.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, rest in peace, Mike Williams.
So what is the saying, like keep your enemies close, but your
Your
friends
friends
even closer?
closer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so scary.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah. So just like with that TikTok adultery case that Kathy from Gossip Rumor Innuendo has covered hilariously.
Yeah,
It's crazy because these two women used to be like close friends and they all hung out with their husbands
that's the
and
worst.
knew each other since high school, and the two husbands were cousins or something. And
Oh
I
my
mean, there's
God.
like a whole lot of drama. At least nobody got murdered there. But I was like, wow, what's going on with these people? And then the plaintiff and her then husband, who sounds like a loser in my opinion, Tim, they allowed the floozy lady who ended
Hmm.
up having the
The
affair with
affair.
Tim, yeah, they allowed her to move into the house with them.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, so I'm just like, that's how much they trusted each other, these
That
so-called
sounds like that
friends.
other case. I forget their names now, but the woman also during the pandemic befriended this family, and then she started an affair with the husband.
Oh,
And was friends with the wife. I can't remember her name right now, but that was a case that just recently she was convicted as well,
what
for
was it, a
killing her
murder?
kid's father. But she enlisted that guy she was having the married guy she was having the affair with to help her kill her kid's father.
Oh my gosh. Wait,
Chris,
what state was that?
um, hold on, I have to send it to you,
Okay,
but
yeah,
can't
let's see if
remember the
any.
names right now.
Now it's like, oh, well, I guess there's so many sordid
Can't
cases
remember
that
if
we
that's
don't
a
even.
Florida one or not.
Okay, so Barry
Might
says
have been
it's in
South
Florida.
Carolina. Yeah. Oh, there. This is why it's memorable because he was the town pathologist, and there was something about going to the crematory and whatnot because they both were moving dead bodies around and stuff for a living.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know if anybody
oh,
remembers that
oh,
case.
yes, that sounds familiar, but yeah, there's just too many crazy
Too many
cases. I
cases,
can't
but yeah,
remember a
the one you were
name.
just talking
Yeah,
about where they're all friends, that reminded me of
the
that because
TikTok.
she befriended the wife and became a friend of the family and would buy them stuff from Costco and bring them groceries, and the whole time she's having an affair with the woman's husband.
Oh,
And then she got him roped into murdering her kid's father.
hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that is horrible. Okay. Well, so far nobody has given us the name of that case, but yeah, Cheryl Williams had faith in God. God spoke to her heart and told Cheryl her son. Yeah, especially since it wasn't alligator feeding season right? When this
Right,
happened, where
exactly. It
he
was
fell
winter.
overboard. Yeah. So how could he be eaten by alligators? Yeah.
Exactly. And the expert said alligators don't feast in the winter. And if he had been, there would have been some evidence of it, right? They don't swallow people whole and, you know,
Yeah.
so they would have found something. And
Hmm.
then months later, they planted Mike's waders
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
and something else of his. They planted it at the lake. And then she used that to get him declared legally dead,
Dead. Hmm.
which to me, that was another no no. I think the court erred in doing that. It was too soon. He hadn't been missing long. And she was able to do that so she could collect the money, the
Yeah.
life insurance that
Yeah.
Brian had sold him, to show
Exactly.
you
He's
that this
so
Brian
evil.
Williams is a
Yeah.
horrible demon of a
Yeah.
person.
Acting like he's still his best friend. I
And
mean,
he's,
that's just
oh, what I
horrible.
did is so horrible.
Yeah.
No, you sold your friend life insurance because you knew you were going to kill him.
Hmm. Oh, Tally
God.
Girl sure knows the details here. What's this? Brian's father attempted to pay a woman in Leon County Jail to testify falsely on Brian's
Oh, I
behalf.
didn't know
There's
that.
a
See,
man.
people know more than I do.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. All right. Yeah. Yes, this is Nadine who has the radio voice. Do you have experience doing acting or voiceovers or
I
something?
don't. I don't.
Oh,
No, no professional voiceover experience.
yeah.
But I've heard that before. People have said, maybe I can sing or I should do voiceover.
Uh-huh.
Read transcripts from Donna Adelson case.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can
I'd be
help to
happy to
read.
do that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, we'll do more because once again, I do feel like this is the case that I am totally obsessed with, and that's
me
why I
too.
can't move on. I can't move on with my life until Wendy gets
Until
arrested.
Wendy gets
Maybe
hers.
Harvey. I don't think Harvey is going to be charged or arrested based on what is public, but
I think it's a
Wendy
waste of
should.
time to talk about Harvey being arrested because when Donna was arrested, Harvey was with her. And
Mhm.
Jack Campbell gave us did a news conference after Donna's arrest and addressed the issue of why Harvey wasn't also arrested. He said they don't have enough evidence against Harvey.
Oh,
So I don't think that's changed. Yeah, if you go back, he did give a press conference after Donna was arrested at the
oh yeah,
airport.
that's right. That's where he talked about how they were tipped that Donna
Right.
was going to
And
get
that
on
they
the
were making
flight.
the decision,
Okay.
and should they wait till, try to extradite her back? And no, they decided to get her. But he did address why Harvey wasn't also arrested. He said there's just not enough evidence against Harvey.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
don't think that has changed, and I don't think it's gonna change. And
Yeah.
it's just a waste of
Although
time.
although they did get all that Gmail and Google info
Yeah, but I don't know that they
after.
got anything new
Yeah.
against,
I
except for
don't know.
him trying to help Donna bribe people.
Yeah, that too. That should be a crime. I mean, why isn't he charged with anything? I mean, if they have proof that he was, what was it? He had some Zelle account and he
Zell,
was talking
yes.
to Drina.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So he was
So,
doing things, and they did tap his phone, even though we didn't get any of that evidence
yeah.
coming in. But they did get a tap on his phone, and all that argument about her lawyers letting her use their phone
The
to
Apple Watch,
communicate.
maybe.
That we haven't heard any more about that, and I guess maybe the state wouldn't pursue that too much because then Donna would need new lawyers again, and
Mm,
things would have been delayed another year.
mm,
So I don't know, but there was some funny business going on there.
yeah. So, we're just waiting and seeing. So, somebody mentioned maybe we should have a letter writing campaign to Jack Campbell. And I was
Next
thinking,
year, we'll give him some
yeah,
time.
let's wait a couple of months. But what I want to do is just go ahead and send flowers and a card to Georgia Cappleman. Just
Oh,
kind of like politely saying, "Hey, we're still here. We're still waiting for some justice for Dan Markel. And by
yeah.
the way, here's some treats
I
or
really like that you
snacks."
did that for Sarah Dugan
Yeah,
because
I did
I
that for
wish
Sarah.
I was surprised that Georgia did not mention her at the press conference, because she was standing there off to the side.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she
I think she
deserves
was
all
too
credit
sleep
too.
deprived. Yeah, because they
maybe.
said she only had 3 hours of sleep because she
Yeah,
didn't know if Donna was
was
going
gonna
to
testify
testify.
or not.
Yeah, darn her, making poor Georgia freak out that whole night.
I know,
Jeez.
right? But I wish she had testified um just for the entertainment value.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been hilarious seeing Georgia tear her apart with all sorts of tabs and evidence to
Oh
cross
my
examine her. And
gosh.
meanwhile, Donna's like, oh, poor little me,
Yeah, but I still think the one
yeah,
thing that probably kept her off that stand was she could not explain having Dan Markel's license plate in that planner. There was just no lie she was going to be able to tell about that. That would make sense.
hmm
Except I don't know why I had it. I don't remember why I had it. I mean, what was she going to say?
it's like, oh, everything was so copacetic with gibbers that, I was going to invite him over to the condo and we needed his license plate number so he could park, some BS. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, did you pick up on how the jailhouse snitch jail daughter Trina?
Hmm.
Trina said that she even told Donna it sounded really stupid when Donna wanted to make up that whole story of being
Shower.
attacked in the shower or
I
molested
knew
in the
that was a
shower.
lie. I suspected
Yeah,
that was a
it's like
lie.
everybody's like nobody would want to touch her old ASS. Like who'd want her? Give me a
Exactly.
freak.
Like,
She's like
who would do
74
that?
back then.
And you know
Yeah,
what really made it clear that it wasn't true? She didn't want to name who did it because you don't snitch. But
yeah,
yet she said this was a very tall person,
uh-huh.
so tall. Like, okay, you're naming her then because I'm
Yeah.
sure there aren't that many people that tall in the
Who could that
jail.
be? Yeah,
So
like
it didn't wash from the jump. So I'm not surprised that it was a complete fabrication.
yeah, yeah,
And she
but
gets up on the stand and is telling this story and oh I was scared, yeah, it hurt.
yeah.
It
Okay,
was a
and
mess
I still waited months after it happened to bring
to
it
say
up.
anything.
Not even telling my lawyer. Come
Yeah,
on.
but
I
I'm
mean, she would
telling you now
complain
because I
about
want I want
everything.
bail.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Top Cat is saying maybe we shouldn't hassle the DA's
Yeah,
office.
I don't think
Yeah.
so. I don't think so.
Okay.
If we see that February rolls around and nothing has happened, maybe then we can start writing.
Yeah.
But I think we should just kind of chill for
Okay.
now
Yeah, exactly. Who would go for the oldest lady in the
in the
jail?
jail.
Well, some people are into grannies, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Wait, what? Donna lied? Yeah. Okay. The woman
Exactly.
was beastly. Okay. Yeah. When is she getting out of the reception center? That's what we don't know because I feel like Charlie was there
He was there a while.
for at least like a month or something
Yeah, he
because
was
they
there a
had to
little while.
really screen everything, make sure he would be safe. And then he wasn't even safe. So they moved him to South Dakota
She
after
may
a while.
What's interesting is, there are a handful of women's prisons, I guess, in Florida. I don't know how many.
Yeah.
But the fact that she could end up in prison with Sarah Boone, the one with the
Yeah.
suitcase,
Yeah.
killed her
Yeah. I
boyfriend in the
followed
suitcase,
that case.
and the other
Yeah.
lady, the one who just got convicted, they just did a Netflix documentary about it, the perfect neighbor, the one who
Oh,
shot the lady through the door, the white
who was
lady,
that?
Susan Lawrence, who
Oh, I didn't
shot.
follow that.
Yeah, it happened in Ocala, Florida. So Donna may end up in prison with her Susan Lawrence.
Oh,
She was
oh,
convicted of shooting her neighbor. The kids were playing. She would always call the police complaining about the
oh,
kids, and
yeah,
then
yeah. I think someone told me about that.
yeah, so
Okay.
you can watch the documentary on Netflix all about it. They did the documentary all through police body cam because she kept calling the police on
Oh,
the kids.
what, what
Anyway,
was the family black?
the lady she shot, yeah, but not all the
Okay.
kids were black. It's a mix.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay. I didn't really follow it, but somebody mentioned it.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
But
so
yeah,
many
it was
cases.
she was using racial slurs against the children and stuff like that, but it was a buildup. You could
Mm-hmm.
see like over a year and a half or so of her calling the police and harassing these kids. It's like you needed to move because you're in a neighborhood with a bunch of kids. There's a big empty field right in front of your house where they play. It's not your
Mhm.
property. Of
Mhm.
course, that it's going to be loud. So she was the problem, not
Yeah.
the children.
Yeah.
But
That's
she
why you
ends
have.
up, researching stand your ground laws. So it's like she planned to shoot this woman, but she did it through the door and claimed
Oh.
that she was afraid. And so the jury didn't buy it that, she no, that it was intentional. She kind of
Mhm.
took the little boy's iPad and threw a roller skate at him to kind of bait the mom to come over.
Oh.
And then when she came over and banged on her door, she shoots her through the door.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what's her name? Donna Adelson could end up in prison with her.
Mm.
And there's some other interesting female prisoners in Florida that she could end up in prison with,
Mm.
depending on where they put her.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
Hmm.
we'll see. Yeah, because I do have that find link alert for Donna. So if she
When she
is
moves.
moved, then I'll get a little text and an email. So it's,
Yeah, I don't think she's gonna have the same Latin Kings problem as Charlie did.
yeah, yeah.
But
Hmm.
she's probably gonna get extorted
Hmm.
in prison and have to, and do they have as much money coming in anymore? I think eventually their money's gonna run out.
Yeah. I don't think there's that much.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So,
And
well,
then
I mean,
Wendy's gonna need.
they're still rich, and who knows how many years Harvey has to live. So,
That's
the
true.
money's probably just gonna go to Dan and Wendy's kids, and then Charlie's son. So,
Yeah, but I'm sure they've spent a few million now on
hmm,
defense
yeah,
and
yeah.
wasting it at that, flying these useless experts
Hmm.
from Oregon.
Yeah,
That
that
one
was
expert,
weird. She was like the strangest, like most unprofessional looking expert
oh
that
my God.
forensic whatever technologist.
They
I
should have
don't
just
even
let her
know.
testify over Zoom or something. Like,
Yeah,
why are
yeah.
you
Well, I
flying
don't
this
think they
woman in
can
from Oregon?
because they have the money and they thought she was going to help the case, but she didn't.
Sure didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's been well over one and a
Yeah.
half hours. So, but thank
We
you
can
so
talk
much,
about this
Nadine.
all night.
Yeah, yeah. My throat's already hurting, so I don't know how you're able to keep talking and talking. So, yeah, thank you so much. So we're gonna have a comedic live stream with Vince Loophole Lawyer again on
Hmm.
Tuesday. I don't know what he's cooking up, but I did take a stab at doing my own AI comedic video. It's going to be like a
Oh.
4 minute thing. I think I'll premiere it during our live stream on Tuesday at 5. So I hope you guys will watch it and laugh
Yeah, I
along
like his
with us.
videos. I love
Oh,
him putting
thank
you
you.
with Mr. FBI
Sanford.
agent Sanford.
I'm like, that doesn't even look like me. And actually, do you see this dress? This is the dress I'm wearing on the beach with Sanford in the AI video clip. Yeah, except back then I had a black microphone. So when he did the video, I have this black looking streak across the top front of this dress. But that's from the microphone that was in the picture. So,
But the funniest one is when you were sitting in the courtroom messing with
oh, with
Harvey's hair.
Harvey's head. Like massaging Harvey's bald head. Gross. Yeah, and
Oh
did I
my
tell you, like some idiot commenter made a snide remark and said, Judy, you're so full of yourself. I know you deliberately sat behind Harvey so you could be on camera.
God. Oh
I'm like,
my God.
excuse me, it was crowded. That was the only place I could squish into. I didn't want to be on camera. I
I
looked
wouldn't even
horrible.
respond to that. That person sounds like, they need to move on. Go
Yeah,
watch somebody
exactly.
else. If you
Like
don't like
throwing
Judy,
some
move on.
false accusations saying that I deliberately sat behind Harvey because I'm such an attention whore
That's a
or
hate
something.
watcher, Judy.
Huh?
Hate watcher.
Yeah.
Sometimes people hate watch people. Like they don't like them, but they still are consuming their content and
Yeah,
watching
and
them so
still
they can.
leaving comments because they're so full of hate and
Yeah,
anger that they have to
negativity.
say, Judy, you're a narcissist. Judy, you did that on purpose.
Yeah, like go get a life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So somebody was asking, do you have a YouTube channel? And
I
you
do
said
not.
no, right?
I
Yeah.
don't. I
Yeah.
don't think I would because of all of that. It's like if I ever did a YouTube channel, I probably would only do it to talk about this case anyway, or some other case that I'm following, and I probably would have no comments. Turn off all comments. So I
Oh,
wouldn't be able to interact with people.
well, you can block people individually if they
Yeah, but that's a
say
job.
rude
Isn't
things. Yeah, it takes up your
takes
time, your
time,
mental
yeah.
energy, where you
Mhm.
feel bad when they're, making fun of you or
Yeah, or
saying
saying
mean
mean
things.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I wouldn't I don't have the time and energy for that.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do the idea of a channel to talk about the case is appealing. But
Mhm.
yeah, the other stuff that goes along with it, I don't have the energy for.
Yeah, yeah, it is very time consuming, especially like
Mhm.
stuff people do in the background behind the scenes, like contacting you,
Yeah.
calling you and
Right.
wanting you to do
And I
stuff
would
and
hate
wasting your
to be in
time.
the grocery store and somebody come up to me and know me from YouTube. Like I don't want to lose my
Oh,
anonymity.
oh, that actually did happen because did you see that live stream I did a few months ago? I should reach out to Tanya again, but she goes by Bluebell. But so she saw me at Whole Foods when I was there, and she just came around near the bakery section and she's like, "Excuse me, are you
Judy.
AA Legal Focus?" I was like, "Huh? What?" And because at first I thought, is this like a former client? Because a lot of clients, I only meet them in person a few times, then their case
They're
is over
gone.
if it's
Yeah.
uncontested or a short case or something. And I was like, who's this? And then she mentioned AA Legal Focus. I was like, oh my gosh, like she watches my channel. So anyway, I should
Yeah.
reach out to her and see if she wants to be on again
Yeah.
or just meet for lunch or something. Yeah, because it's very rare to find someone who is obsessed with this case that
Yeah.
actually lives near me. So, speaking
Right.
of which, this beautiful painting is from Observation Station.
Mhm.
So I purchased a couple of her paintings, and she's actually an art teacher near me. So
Oh,
we've met for lunch a couple of times.
that's
Yeah.
nice. The same one who ran into you in Whole Foods?
Oh no, it's a
Oh,
different person.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Observation Station, she was just commenting on my
Oh.
channel a bunch of times for,
And she's
years ago.
local.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that's
sort of
good.
local. So we've met for lunch and, I have a couple of her beautiful paintings. And her Instagram is called Jetty May. So I'll
Mhm.
put that in the chat. Or it's just spelled JETTI_MAE,
Mhm.
just in case people want to buy some of her
Yeah, it's
paintings because
cool.
I think they're so beautiful. Yeah.
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
never know. You might meet some really cool, nice, interesting
People.
people, in
That's
addition
true.
to crazy people who waste your time. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
both sides. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time, and hopefully you'll be back because people love you. So,
Absolutely.
you
I'm
know,
happy to anytime. Thanks for
yeah.
having me and justice for Dan.
Yes.
Thanks to everyone
Justice
in
for
the chat.
Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Have a good night,
Bye. Good
everybody. Hope
night.
to see you
Bye.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.